No, the bandwagon, as they say, was getting heavy. Everyone started to jump on the bandwagon again.
Portland is not in a position to try to come back, and he should just kind of leave that alone.
Stop being satisfied with mediocre performances.
I don't like it. Plain and simple, I really don't like it. An all-star game just shows how much they just kind of continue to placate the players and their lackadaisical efforts on the court.
It really sparked my interest, and I'm sure that of many others. Alistair Albert, thank you very much.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Baseline to Baseline with Alistair and Orain. My name is Alistair Albert, and of course my co-host all the time from Jamaica, live right there, Orain Buchanan. On episode 23, we're moving into the conference finals of both conferences, the West and the East. You know, the playoffs are now moving along. You know, things are almost. You know, we're almost done. The NBA season is almost done. We're heading into June, middle of June, when everything is going to kind of culminate with a champion being crowned, whether it be a new one or a repeat. We're about to find out. You know, it's going to be really interesting to see what happened. We had a few games a couple of days ago where, you know, some, very valiant fallen soldiers have gone away, with the Minnesota Timberwolves, of course, not being able to, get past the San Antonio Spurs, and we have a matchup tonight, Game 7, Detroit Pistons and the Cleveland Cavaliers. We're going to talk about that, of course, on the next episode. We're waiting to see what happens with that outcome, who will be facing the Knicks in the Eastern Conference Finals. But, before we even start, I'm wearing, of course, an Oklahoma City jersey. And, of course, we have the news that just came in just a couple of minutes ago with Shai Gilgeous Alexander winning his second MVP back-to-back, the 14th player in NBA history to win back-to-back MVPs. He joined some elite company, of course, and someone, who's really, really made a name for himself, since being moved over from the Los Angeles Clippers to the OKC Thunder. The Clippers just have to be kicking themselves, making that trade for Paul George and seeing what this boy is doing and just killing it, killing the NBA, killing everyone in his path, and, probably on to a second back-to-back championship himself. What do you think about that news? Just to start us off, Orain, what Shai has been able to do, and what we think for his playoffs moving forward.
Yeah, the league belongs to SG at the moment. This guy's doing whatever he wants on the basketball court. And when you look at, as I always say, separating good from great there, is how much they dominate and control a game. SJ is showing how you control a game or you dominate a game.
Yeah.
This guy is not whatever he wants on the basketball court. He's shooting at 55% from the field. Like, just think about that. The first guy to win back-to-back in Steph Curry, he's not on track, on a trajectory to be part of a very rare field, to become the third player who will not only win back-to-back MVP, but potentially Finals MVP if he should get that chip.
Yeah.
We had him in 91-92, and LeBron James would be in 2012 and 2013. I think the biggest test for the Oklahoma City Thunder will come in the Western Conference Finals. I think if they safely navigate their way through the San Antonio Spurs, whichever team will be second best to them. I think this team has every single thing. I mean, we've spoken at length about the destruction that this team has in their arsenal. And not to stray from SJ, just doing the whole package. When you can go 9-10 without missing a beat, that showed me that you have championship game. And this is what the Oklahoma City Thunder have. They have championship game, they have depth, and they have every single thing that they need to have to repeat. Yeah? So SG, shot selection,
Mhm.
pass, when to shoot, when to do anything. He has that down. When things not going his way, how do I get to the free throw line? I mean, he's mastered that till people are calling him free throw merchant. He knows how to manipulate the game right now, and he's just easily the best player in the league at this juncture. And just you just have to give him his props. SGA is controlling the league at this moment, and he's doing whatever he wants on a basketball court, and that's dangerous. 68 games played in the regular season, as listeners.
Mhm.
One game he went scoring under 20.
Yeah.
One under 20 points came in the postseason. Memory serves me right. That was a game against the LA.
Yeah.
Do whatever you want, and he's controlling the tempo, pace, every single thing of the game. And you got to give to him. This league now belongs to SGA. And you just have to watch what the guy makes.
Absolutely, yeah. He's done something crazy. And imagine, I wanted to start off with another topic with the Knicks, but because he is crowned MVP for the second time this week today, I thought it really pertinent and relevant to start with him, and we'll kind of go into this conversation about this matchup against the Spurs. But yeah, like you're saying, he's dominated. He's done anything that he's wanted on the court. But it's really interesting when you take it to these Western Conference Finals against the Spurs. I think anyone who saw what the season was unfolding to be wanted to see this Western Conference Finals. We wanted to see maybe Denver wanted to see what happened with Denver, wanted to see what happened with the Houston Rockets. Would they have been a little more formidable? But we all wanted to see a Chet and Wemby matchup. In the most high stakes of games to get to win the West, and you see what Wemby and the Spurs could do against the Oklahoma City Thunder, a team that we of course many have said don't know if we could trust them. They are inexperienced. How far could they go? They've proven every test correct. They've done the exam and have come out with an A. And now they're here to do the hardest exam to really propel them into just verified A as one of the youngest teams to kind of get to the finals, and doing it against a reigning champion team that is, almost unlike any other we've seen so far. You wanted to say something, and I'll continue.
You know your game very well. In terms of this matchup now, Spurs, OKC, Thunder. Does the Spurs go man-to-man defense or zone?
Ooh, well, for the purposes of some stats that I've got, and to answer that question, I say they need to stay man to man. They need to stay home. They need to be able to lock into their players, do the appropriate traps here and there to try to force the ball out of SG's hands when possible. But there's a stat that I pulled up in some of the things that that really proves this point for you right here. In the 5 games that have been played, SGA played 4 of them against the Spurs. The Spurs won 4-1 regardless. So, they had a dominant regular season against the OKC Thunder. I'm going to go through a list of stats for you that will show what the Spurs have done to the OKC Thunder. Points per game, Spurs have won 114 to 109 of OKC. They've shot a little better out from the field for 47% versus OKC's 44.8. Threes, 3-point percentage, they've shot a slightly better 36% versus 33. Free throw attempts, that's a very important one because we talk about Shai being a free throw merchant, him getting to the line and adding to his point total. The Spurs actually have a better free throw attempt rate, so they're getting to the line more than the Thunder. So the Thunder need to try to figure that out, how they could reverse that to put it back in their favor. 24 free throw attempts to 20. The Spurs rebound better, 48 rebounds per game versus 44. And blocks, which is really, really interesting considering they have Wemby, 4.8 blocks per game for the Spurs, 6.2 blocks for OKC. Now, the stats I really want to talk about, forget the free throws for now. For the rest of the league, Shai Gilgeous Alexander has played against. He's averaged 31.5 points per game, 4.3 rebounds, 6.6 assists, 55% from the field, 38.9% from free. That's the rest of the league. When we speak about the Spurs specifically, the 4 games he's played, his scoring average dips to 29.5%, so slightly less than the 31, 4.5 rebounds, so a little better, and 5.5 assists, so slightly lower. 50% from the field, so drops from 55. So the Spurs have kind of figured out how to, make him a little less efficient, but 50% from the field is still awesome for a guard in this day and age. 19% from three-point range versus 38.9 against the rest of the league. So for me, what that means is the Spurs and their perimeter defense have figured out a way to neutralize SGA. Right? And that means, to answer your question, they need to stay home and guard him man to man. You start playing zone, you're going to start messing up the rotations and giving him a lot more open shots potentially. The ball always moves faster than the feet. He'll get open shots. His teammates will find him. Stephon Castle, Vassell, Dylan Harper, the young boy Bryant, Wemby himself. All of them are very capable defenders who slide their feet and are able to guard the perimeter, which will make it very difficult. And I think coach, the coach of the Spurs, he's going to look at that figure right there and be like, we need to make sure we keep him off the 3-point line. Now, the difficulty for the Spurs is SGA, as we've seen, is he's very good at using your own momentum and your own your own energy against you. So you try to go at him, he will find the counter and he will start to, be efficient anywhere else. But if we're just looking at the stats, he 38.9% against the rest of the league and 19% against the Spurs. That has been his kryptonite against them. And I think that's what they need to do. They need to stay home, get the ball out his hands very early, deny the first pass, make sure he doesn't get it back, and face guard him, really tough baskets from behind the 3-point line. So that's what I think they should do.
I totally agree with you. I was just weighing my mind as to the best defensive scheme that the Spurs could use. But I think going man to man at the start, I think to close out the game, I want to see Wemby guarding, close out every single game.
Wemby guarding. Okay. Mano, the two best players against each other. All right.
I'm the coach of the Spurs. Yes, I'll start with my zone defense, but close out, he's the defensive player of the year.
True.
I want the best defender in the league guarding the best offensive player to close out my game.
Yeah, I think that would be really good to see, how they'll be able to do that. Of course, they will not want to, of course, we say he's a free throw merchant. You don't want to end up seeing Wemby in foul trouble too early or too late in the games at critical moments of the game. So it'll be really interesting to see how they manage that. I think Luke Cornett has been a really good rim defender for them at quite some points in time. So you probably could have Wemby float a little bit and still have someone who's in the zone to kind of, clog it up and deter people from the rim as well. That's not a lineup I think they've played very often, but this is where we're going to see, coach, I keep on forgetting his name, the coach of the Spurs, Mitch Johnson, what's his name? Let's see, him. And he's a very young coach. Let's see, how what experience he's gained throughout the season and the adjustments that he'll need to make, because this will be an adjustments matchup. I think this series could go at least 6 games. I think this is not going to be an easy one for the Spurs as they had it in the regular season, but they did get a formula that works, and it's a matter of execution, keeping their focus in check. We cannot have another moment where we see Wemby throwing elbows and getting himself ejected. He needs to be on the court at every single minute that he can. And this is going to be, an awesome matchup. This is probably one of the most anticipated Western Conference Finals in quite a couple of years. I think there are a few factors we need to take into play, and I'll let you close out this part of the segment. There's a few things that have been said throughout, this season and, from years past. When Wemby came into the NBA, on the draft night, one of the questions that they asked him is, what are you looking forward to working with Greg Popovich, and, what do you expect to have for your rest of the career? One of the things he said that stood out immediately, I want to win as soon as possible. This is a guy that was not waiting for a ring 5-6 years down the line. He wants to win now. So, there's this urgency from him that's going to try to push them through. there's a lot of pride on the line. These are the defending champions who do not want to go out, and you have the defensive player of the year who wants to prove that he can be, the stopper of a very elite team. Wemby, and wants what Chet has. Chet has a ring, Wemby doesn't. And the Spurs don't want to wait, like I said. They don't want to wait. They want to prove it this year. This inexperienced thing, they've completely debunked it. And that's what they're hoping to do in this Western Conference Finals. Your final words on this?
I mean, I just add to what you've been saying for the OKC Thunder, it could get even scarier because they have the 12th pick in the upcoming NBA draft. What are the OKC Thunder looking at, right? We are part of the front staff. Are they in need of a guard, a forward? What area you think would they choose in the upcoming draft?
For the Thunder, what would they need? That's a really good question. They have it feels like they have a glut of everything. They have so many good forwards. They have some good guard play already. Maybe another center potentially. You have Jalen Williams, who's the light-skinned Jalen Williams with the long hair who backs up Hartenstein and Chet Holmgren. And yeah, he's all right, but I think maybe they need to get a little bulkier and have a deeper rotation at the center position. I think there's a lot of, forwards and guards that are very interchangeable across the lineup. Isaiah Joe, the Williams guy, what's his name? Who's just been going crazy. I can't remember his name. What's his name?
Oh, Mitchell.
AJ Mitchell, sorry. Yeah, I botched his name there. AJ Mitchell, he's just come up, and I have a friend of mine who said, he's very Harden-esque for what it was for OKC back in the day. He could come off the bench, instant offense and everything. Of course, you have SGA, you have Jalen Williams, was an all-star last year who's had some injury issues going on. I think the guard and forward positions are really well catered for already. Case and Wallace coming off the bench, and all these sorts of guys. I think maybe they need to get a little bigger in their depth in the rotation from center. So yeah, maybe one of the highly touted guys from the power forward and center position coming out from the draft potentially was like, imagine these guys have another pick coming to them. When talk about the rich getting richer.
I was watching the draft. I was watching the OKC Thunder squad, and I'm saying if I'm drafting for the OKC Thunder, I'm taking a beat. I'm taking a power forward, small, center, like a dreamer. And I'm watching this guy from Michigan, Axel Ledenberg. Yeah.
Okay. Right.
And I think the draft to around that side. The mock draft city should be around 10 to 15 era. And
Right.
I'm saying it would be a for this OKC Thunder team. Can come in, can slide his feet very well, can defend. He's also good on the offensive end. So I think Phoenix get very scary for the rest of the team in this league to see that they have the potential to draft a player that could easily take them to another height. So
Yeah.
the OKC Thunder
Talking about what Joe Lacob had said at the heights of the Warriors dynasty and winning championships and everything. He called the Warriors, they're ahead of everyone, they're light years ahead of everyone. It feels like the OKC Thunder are light years ahead of everyone right now. And what Sam Presti has been able to do from the front office, draft picks, just stockpiling and just continually building a formidable championship level team. And it looks like it's just going to continue on and on and on. But yes, the Western Conference Finals starts this week. I'm not sure when game one is, but this is one I think all eyes are going to be on. And we're going to see the newly minted back-to-back MVP going against the Defensive Player of the Year. And we're going to see who comes out in the West. Earlier on in the season, I said I don't think the Thunder will repeat. I think, although imagine they're my team, but I'd love to see Wemby and them get through to the finals. And I think I will give them Spurs in 7. This is where I'm going to go with this as a prediction. But it will not surprise me at all if the Thunder get through. But I think it's going to be a thrilling matchup. I think it's a toss-up. I say the Spurs. Who do you have coming through?
I think the Spurs will give them a good test, but I've just thought.
Yeah, the Thunder. All right, cool. So we're gonna see how that happens. We're on the opposite ends of the spectrum for this, but it's really good.
before we go, I want to squeeze this one in. This is very good for the end. Adam Silver, over there said that he wants to grow the league, carry to higher heights on the international stage.
Yep.
What this means to us is that since 2019, the regular season MVP of the league has gone to an overseas player.
Mm. Yep.
2019, 20, Jokic 21, 22, Embiid 23, Jokic in 24, 25, 26, SG, all overseas players. So that's very good for that.
Absolutely. The game has gone global. Everyone, around the world is capable of coming into the league and doing what they need to do and dominating. Adam Silver's, well, David Stern's vision initially of trying to grow the game internationally, has been taken over, leaps and bounds by Adam Silver. And what we see here is definitely that influence of the NBA over internationally, having its play on the largest stage, and these MVPs coming from everywhere. It's crazy. So yeah. So that's the our little talk from the OKC Thunder and San Antonio Spurs. Let's see what they do with the defense. We're going to keep a really close eye on that. 19% for Shai Gilgeous Alexander against the Spurs. Let's see if that holds up, and we'll see what happens. The topic number 2 now that I wanted to start off with as number 1, but anyway, it's not a problem. We're moving on quickly with that is the New York Knicks. The New York Knicks have had an outstanding playoff so far. We've seen them, go from wow, what's gonna happen to these boys? We have people like, their heads in their hands with these Knicks. What's going on? Mike Brown. Mike Brown has been a disappointment. Should they have fired Tom Thibodeau? Cat looks like, a very, of course, solid offensive player, but can, we get the best out of him. Seeing a sweep of the Philadelphia 76ers to get to the Eastern Conference Finals was rather impressive. And, I think it's fair to question, do we owe the Knicks an apology? Does the public owe the Knicks an apology? Of course, staunch and avid Knicks fans will probably be like, we never wavered. We were there, we supported them and everything. But I think the public perception of the Knicks as the season went on was they're a joke. I think Cameron came on to First Take and said, he just does not trust them. And, the history that shows that they're a team that's not to be trusted. But even, staying on that same show, First Take, Stephen A. Smith had predicted very early on in the season that the Knicks were going to make it to the NBA Finals. And it seems like they're on their way. Do you see the Knicks making the NBA Finals? Do we have an apology for them? What do you see from them that will be really good against the Detroit Pistons and Cleveland Cavaliers? How do you see it playing out so far?
It all comes down to match. If the New York Knicks matches up against the Detroit Pistons, they will beat the Pistons. If the Knicks match up against Cleveland Cavaliers, I have the Cleveland Cavaliers beating them.
Okay, interesting. Right, okay.
It all comes down to matchups for me. So I'll have to wait and see after the Eastern Conference Finals how that goes. But to be fair, credit has to be given to the New York Knicks. They're looking real good, Alistair. They're looking real good. They're the first to close out their opponents back-to-back series, winning by 30 or more points in closeout.
Mm-hmm.
The rules in the NBA. Closeout games are the hardest games. Yeah?
Sure.
Culture when they get to that stage. But New York, so whenever they get to that third, they're kicking it down. They're kicking down the hurdle, taking it and throwing it out. They're showing me that mindset. That's the word that they have in their mind whenever they go to dominant. And I'm saying Jalen Brunson is on a different tier. That's what leaders do. I mean, he's taking his team on his back and say, guys, follow me, follow mine. And also, interestingly, I came across another one. Only 4 teams have done this in the entire postseason, winning closeout games by 30 or more points in the entire postseason. 87 Lakers, 08 Celtics, 2025 OKC Thunder.
Wow.
That What have in common? They have all gone on to win the NBA championship.
Absolutely. Yeah, and this. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Yep. Go ahead.
I'm saying, whenever you get to close out games, how do you get over that hurdle? And it's showing me that this team is ready and this team is prime. And Cat, we'll have to just follow the lead of Jalen Brunson. This guy is leading the team very well.
The
And
Knicks,
they
yeah.
you can
Yeah. The Knicks have impressed, and what I would like to say is against the Atlanta Hawks, I kind of felt like the Atlanta Hawks were one of these teams that were maybe like a year early in their progression. They had a really good season after trading Trey Young. They got into the playoffs. They got CJ McCollum. Team started to pick up. And they were definitely a scary out. And for the two games that they were up 2-1 at one point in the series, and then the Knicks came back and won all four 3 games after that consecutively. But it was a really good game, closed them out in crazy fashion as well. But I didn't think the Atlanta Hawks was ready. The Philadelphia 76ers, I thought, was a very interesting one because this is a team of veterans. And yes, of course, Joel Embiid, he will always be the one we will point to with injuries and everything. But a team with Paul George, the way VJ Edgecombe played as a rookie, Tyrese Maxey, Kelly Oubre, that was actually a really good team. And for the Knicks to be able to dismantle them the way that they did was really, really impressive. And just kudos to Mike Brown for being able to tap in to the motivation that was able to get these boys through and everything. Whoever they play next is going to be a much tougher test, obviously. These are the last, coming up to the last four teams, that are the best in the NBA and everything. But what I'm gonna do here is something, just like I did with the last segment. Let's call out a few stats to kind of just, let's see if we could sift out a few things. But first, the Knicks are one of only 2 teams averaging at 120 points per game in this postseason. The other team is the Oklahoma City Thunder at 121. So that's how dominant they've been playing offensively. They've been hitting their shots and everything. They have the best field goal percentage in all of the playoffs at 51.7% and the best 3-point percentage at 40.8%. So the Knicks have just been shooting lights out, right? They're fourth in free throw attempts, so they're being very aggressive, and fourth in rebounds, second in the assists. The ball is moving, they're playing aggressive and everything. What has been the knock of the Knicks for the whole season when they had all of their up and down stuff going on? How inconsistent that they were, how soft they looked at different times, and how disappointed. Apart from Jalen Brunson always he scores his points and everything, but the supporting cast of Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart at times, Cat at times, not playing up to their potential offensively, right? But this is what they've been able to do. I think this stops now at these Eastern Conference Finals. We saw what Detroit did to them in the regular season, and of course we know this. The regular season is a totally different, different ball. Whatever the analogy is, I'm trying to use it. I've completely lost my words today, but anyway, it's a different kettle of fish. Against the Detroit Pistons, they have scored only 93.7 points. That's the regular season, but 93.7 points versus 121 from the Pistons. So the Pistons had it for them. They were a lot more aggressive, were able to stop them defensively and everything. So this Jekyll and Hyde thing that we've seen, where they are now very positively, being able to put up points and score with a great efficiency in the postseason. If they play Detroit, I would be really interested to see what happens there. 29.6% from three against the Pistons versus that. With Cleveland, now you said you might favor Cleveland more if they advance today. The Cleveland series was a lot closer. New York won two of those 3 games, and the stats are really close. They scored 113, Cleveland scored 114. Field goal percentage 43.6%, Cleveland scored 47. 3-point percentage 37, Cleveland 40. Rebounds 40.7, Cleveland 45. They blocked the ball a lot better against Cleveland as well. So it's a more competitive matchup against Cleveland, where they could definitely pull out through. I'm still sticking with my Detroit Pistons as being able to go through against them. I think that they've wanted them all season. They called them out before the season even started. They blew them out each time. They have the physicality down pat. Let us see if Carl Anthony Towns Josh Hart and all these boys could sustain what they've done so far in this postseason and get through. But of course, we won't know that until we see who comes out of Game 7 tonight. I'm still riding the Detroit Pistons, hoping that they're able to come through. I would obviously love my prediction to be correct. So this is where I'm going to go with it. But it's going to be another outstanding matchup that will determine the Eastern Conference Final champion. And it's going to be really, really, really interesting to see. So we're going to find out in a few moments, in a few hours, who's definitely going to come out. So what we're going to do here, we shall stop this segment 1, and we go into segment 2 really quickly, where we're going to have a topic where, of course, LeBron James has been eliminated from the playoffs, but he's just always very close in everyone's minds. LeBron is always going to be someone we talk about. So we're going to come right back in segment 2 talking about LeBron James. We're going to have a very important question here as we move on, which is linked to OKC as well. So stay tuned. Segment 2, episode 23, Baseline to Baseline with Alistair and Ari, coming right up. Hello, and thank you for coming back to segment 2 of episode 23 of Baseline to Baseline with Alistair and Orain. Of course, Alistair here and on Orain, of course. We're moving into segment 2, like we said. Of course, we spoke a little bit about the New York Knicks, who are waiting for their opponent for game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals. And we have, of course, the Western Conference Finals set between the Spurs and the OKC Thunder. 2 sets of matchups that we're really looking forward to see who's going to ride out and win the championship this season. Another really great season so far. I think early on in the playoffs, I think something had come up and I said it was something like 33 years. I'll have to check the stats again. I'll make the correction if anything. I think it was 33 years. The start of these playoffs had the highest rating since like 33 years ago. So these playoffs have been really good so far. Has brought the eyes in. I think a lot of fans have been really interested to see what's going to happen. LeBron is out. That the ratings have kind of kept up. It's been a really good transition to the new age of basketball in the NBA, and that's definitely going to continue. What we're going to do here is, considering the new age, we're going to talk a little bit about the old age for a little bit and talk about LeBron James. Now, the reason why I'm bringing him up, of course, he was eliminated by the OKC Thunder. He was swept by the OKC Thunder in the last round. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is the last 3 teams, or the last 4 teams, no, the last 3 teams who swept LeBron in the playoffs have gone on to win the championship. So Oklahoma City being the last one, is it possible that they could repeat? Right? So the 2007 Cavs, of course, got swept by the Spurs. LeBron's first appearance in the NBA Finals. Tim Duncan, him and Tim Duncan having a conversation at the end of the game where Tim Duncan tells him, it's my time. Your time for the league, coming to dominate the league is coming, but right now it's my time. It was a really good conversation that was held there between the both of them. In 2017, 2018, of course, the KD-led Golden State Warriors swept LeBron in the finals as well. And in 2023, in the Western Conference Finals, the Denver Nuggets swept Lakers to go on to win the championship as well. But, of course, what's going to happen, I'm going to dominate the next set of weeks up until October. Well, not October, until maybe late August, sometime September. What's going to happen to LeBron James? Is he going to retire? What team is he going to go to, and everything? And I think I want to get a little bit of a head start on this, because there are quite a few teams that have, that have been in the consciousness of people, thinking about next season already, who where LeBron can line up. And we have teams like the New York Knicks right now, who are right there. The Cavaliers, him going back home. The Warriors, can he help Stephen Curry? He's always said he's wanted to play with Steph. Would he actually want to go a few miles up north and join him with the Warriors? Will he repeat or stay with the Lakers and continue with Luka Doncic? Will he maybe just go cross town, join the Clippers, and maybe he might even go to Dallas, who knows, and join Kyrie Irving? or he retires. You know, these are the options it kind of feels like for him. Or is there another team? What do you think LeBron will do? Do you think there's any chance that he retires, or does he come back? And if he comes back, which team you think he will end up playing for?
It all comes down to money. It all comes down to package which Genie Boss and the old that offers LeBron James.
Right.
We all know when it comes to money and LeBron James, this guy takes zero discount.
He does. Yeah.
Not taking a pay cut. But what will the Lakers do? I mean, what will they offer Austin Reeves?
The market for him right now, I think they're saying is north of 40K, 40 million a year.
So it all comes down to what does Lakers offer Austin Reeves, what do LeBron James? If it comes down to LeBron, for you to come back here, you'll have to take a pay cut. I think LeBron James is going to go somewhere else.
Right. So you don't think the factor of him being a billionaire, him making as much money as he has, having some understanding of where he is in his career, and that he's hampering the team, that you don't think he might take a discount based on that? You don't see it. Okay. That'll be really interesting to see.
He's shown it in the past. When he was at Miami Heat, he could have stayed for more.
True.
Every single time it comes around to LeBron James and salary, he has never taken a pay cut. He could have stayed. Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh, they could have run it. He did not choose not to do it.
Yeah.
Every single time in his career where it comes down to salary, pay cut, however LeBron is like, look, if I tell you 45 mil and you offer 2-year 42 mil, I'm out.
Right.
And even though he's 42 years old, I still think he's going to look at the Lakers and say, all right, I'm turning 42, but what I did at 41 years old, if it wasn't for me, this team wouldn't have gone this far.
True.
So why should I take 41 years old? No, I am still arguably the best player on this team. Why should I take a pay cut? It wasn't proven they can carry this team, or has injury issues and show that they're not durable enough. Why should I? I've never been injured to be out extended period of time. I'm always available.
Yeah.
I still can shoot basketball. I still can basketball. I still can play positions 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So why should I take a pay cut for someone else? Well, I think will be the argument for LeBron.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess the argument for that is very, very compelling argument for him in that regard. I think the question to that would be, what does the team want to do long term? Because long term is the thing here. You know, do they want to keep Austin Reeves as, you know, a centerpiece alongside Luka Doncic? Is Austin Reeves willing to wait a couple of years before he's paid? Is the next question. Considering that the market, there are teams that they're saying who are ready to give him a max contract potentially as well. I'm not sure which ones are, but that's the rumors on you know, out there from sources in NBA reporting in the NBA reporting world and everything. Now, thinking about the teams that I mentioned: Knicks, Cavs, Warriors, LA themselves, Lakers, Clippers, Dallas. Of these teams, the teams that I think that are most likely to give him anything close to the max that he's probably worth, or willing to gut their team for him for a one year rental, 1 or 2 year rental, it will definitely be either the Warriors. I think the Warriors are very desperate to do something. Draymond Green has been floated, his name has been floated quite a lot, you know, and everything. Maybe Jimmy Butler is shipped out, who knows? But the Warriors, I think they'll be willing to go through the cap gymnastics to get LeBron under their umbrella to pair him with Steph Curry. I think that's something that we definitely have to watch, and I don't think he will see. Would he say no? I don't know, but he will definitely be something that will think about him. And then next, we know Steve Ballmer. he has money to spend. Like you say, he has money to stone dogs. You know, Steve Ballmer will throw money at him, but I can't see LeBron in a Clippers jersey. Yeah, I don't see that happening. So yeah, the Knicks I think are a very interesting one. They could probably offer up a few pieces like maybe OG Anunoby, who signed a max contract, I think, or a near max contract this off season. Josh Hart, a few players maybe that you might you want to ship out for salary purposes. But when you start shipping out those types of players, then what are you leaving him with alongside Jalen Brunson and potentially Cat? So, the gymnastics that would need to be done from James Dolan's side, I think he would definitely want to do it. But how it works, I don't know how it's gonna work. What I think we need to think about. So you're thinking about the financial aspect and what LeBron will do. I'm going to start looking at it from the age perspective. And I suppose being a 40-year-old now, I'm now on that fourth floor. What's most people tend to do when we get older, we start to think about comfort. We don't want no hassle. We want everything very easy and everything. This guy is in LA. That's where his home is. That's where Bronny is. That's where his wife and family is. I think LA, I think it's very possible that he could work out something with them. He might take a discount, but something on the back end that pays him. I don't know. Maybe going to be some deferral payment or some other under the table deal maybe that kind of goes through. So I think LA has the inside edge on this potentially. I think him moving to somewhere like the Knicks, I think that's too much of a stretch, having to find a new home in New York and all that sort of stuff. I just don't see that happening. The Cavs are very interesting, as him being able to return to home. I think that was one of the places that most people thought if he did go on anywhere else where he would land. Why I haven't said anything about the Cavs is they're right now in the throes of competition. If the Cavs get through to the Eastern Conference Finals, and let's say they get to the finals, would he really want to join? I think LeBron is actually really conscious of what his legacy is and what people are saying about him. And this
That's
thing
why I
about
don't think he'll go down the whole of the Golden State Warriors. I know he has said in the past that he wants to play alongside Steph Curry. I
Mhm,
think it's where he got the chance, they showed what they can do when they come together. But I think for the narrative at this end of his career to go
mhm,
join, we've seen what that argument has done to one Kevin Durant. Yeah,
mhm.
I don't think LeBron James would go down that road for that narrative to be thrown on his shoulders.
The only
Leaving the cup,
mhm, mhm. No, the only thing with that is I think what works in his favor here, it's not like when Kevin Durant went to the Warriors and Steph was in his prime. This is a guy who's now, of course, he's still playing very elite, but they're both in their twilight and they're starting to decline. So I think, and we saw what happened to the Warriors, going out in the play-in. So
like masses, that is what they're going to say. That is what they're going to say. Oh,
yeah.
LeBron James, no one. That's the narrative that would thrown out. And there are a couple other narratives around that I'm just trying to contain myself. This thing about taking LeBron James for granted. LeBron James is my favorite player. My
Yeah.
goat James. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. So for argument's sake, LeBron James has been taken for granted. Which team can you tell me LeBron James has been taken granted? Which team?
With
LeBron James has single-handed every coach he has played alongside, every player that has been on the roster that he's played with. So
mhm,
where is the narrative come from?
mhm,
LeBron James can pick his coaches for various reasons.
mhm,
One, I think he stayed away from getting coaches that he can't really have a say on.
mhm,
Yeah.
mhm,
Some people might Miami Heat with Eric Spoelstra. He wanted another coach at Miami. They did not want Eric Spoelstra to be the coach when he, Dwayne Wade, and Chris was working.
they wanted
And
Pat.
we know Pat Riley said, no, no, no.
Yeah.
You Cleveland Cavaliers, you're not going to control here.
Mhm, mhm.
Eric Spoelstra coach at Miami, and LeBron James had to come himself. Yeah?
Yep.
So he has a single coach. He's coach now. JJ Reddick. He handpicked JJ Reddick. A man that has never coached in his life before. His first coaching is with one of the most storied franchises in NBA history, and that's by accident. No, it's not by accident.
Right.
He wanted coaches that he can say, you know what, no, this is what we're going to do. We're not going to do that. I've seen playoff games where coaches wanted, I think it was David Blatt, when he was at Cleveland in his second season, wanted to take LeBron James and said, no, I'm playing the whole game. I'm going the whole game. So he has, I'm still waiting to hear the correct argument or the sensible argument of when LeBron James has taken first. And I still can't.
Still can't get it.
I pick every player, every coach that he wants to play under the tutelage of. So I really don't see. But I don't think the Warriors he'll go.
You don't think so? Yeah, I think LeBron, like, if I think there's two things going on here. Next year could be his last, or he wants to play 25 seasons. I think a lot of people are this is now starting to become a thing where he wants to do 25 seasons. 25 is a nice round number, quarter century. Nobody will ever probably be able to do it, and whatever it is, it's possible. LeBron can play 2 more years. We could see, how he's been playing and everything. But I think there's a lot of factors at play there. And it's going to be really interesting to see where he ends up choosing to go. 25 seasons, I think also brings into play potentially his second son, Bryce, being possibly eligible for the NBA draft as well. I know it's something that he said he's not necessarily looking for. His wife Savannah has made it very clear, he doesn't want to want him to kind of go through that again or whatever. But yeah, a lot is going to be discussed over this off season, and LeBron has been a master of finding ways to infiltrate the proceedings when things have gotten a bit quiet, or the attention has been on somewhere else. So we're going to see something happen over this off season where LeBron then becomes the headline again. Say that again?
Legacy to look like. We've seen in probably the past 2 or 3 years, LeBron James is not getting the calls that he usually gets.
Yeah.
When he was at his
height. Yeah.
But you understand the point that not getting the calls because what's happening in the league now. I think players, referees, I think people are getting tired of seeing LeBron. That's the narrative that
a lot of people are.
It's so long that people are like, yeah, LeBron James again, he'll do what he does. But he's not getting the respect from the players and officials that he was in the OKC Thunder. He was arguing with someone at the line, and the player was saying, "Yeah, you always get that." But he said, "No, you don't say that."
I remember that. Yes,
you are not. You are not.
It was Şengün.
What?
It was Şengün, I think.
I think. No, not you. Somebody else saying it, not you.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, when opponents start to talk to other players of certain caliber like that, the respect is getting lower and lower.
Yeah.
Leave when the exit door is still an option.
Right.
Leave the exit door is still an option. It will be very sad for a player like LeBron James to be getting in fights on the 14-year, 20 next year would what? 24?
Yeah.
Someone in the league for 2 or 3 seasons, talking down on it.
Yeah, people starting to do the I see what you're saying. Yeah. But I think next year will be the last. If he does 2 more, I'll be very surprised. I think next year would be a very nice, in terms of being able to going out on top with a championship would be one thing, but going out on top in the sense that he's still dominant, he's still playing very well, he's leaving at a very high level. You're not starting to see that diminishing of his the little athleticism that he has left doesn't look totally washed. I think next year is probably where he should call it quits. But the team that he ends up with, I have no idea. I think people are underestimating, and I know that the financial points that you made, they make quite a lot of sense. But I think people are underestimating whether or not he might want to stay with the Lakers. But I do think there's a little element of maybe fatigue from Rob Pelinka as well, wanting to move on, wanting to start to build a team without him. But the Warriors dynamic really interests me. I really want to see if he would actually take that up. And I think LeBron likes the attention, and I think he's at this stage where he's like he's at an FU stage of his career where he's like he just doesn't care. And I think narratives be damned. Although I said earlier on that I think he's very aware of what people say about him, but I think the opportunity to play with Steph would be one of these big FU moments for him. He'll be like, you know what? This is how I want to go out. I want to play with my boy Steph. We won an Olympic level medal. Let's go get a championship together and all of that. So I think that's very possible. The Cavs, of course, are definitely one of those that have the inside track as well. The Dallas dynamic, I think the Kyrie thing that came up, I heard somewhere in one of the podcasts. I think that's interesting, but I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think he follows Kyrie to the Dallas Mavericks. I don't think that happens. And the Knicks, I just think from a lifestyle perspective, I think it's too far from what he wants right now in his life. I think he wants comfort and less hassle. And I think either being home with the Cavs or staying where he is in LA is probably better. San Francisco, as a place to be on the West Coast, I think is definitely an option. So between the Cavs, Warriors, and LA, I think these are the three teams. And I'm gonna pick, for headline purposes and content, I say he chooses the Warriors. I have no idea if this will happen. I'm not saying it with any sort of conviction like I did with the Detroit thing earlier on in this year, but I think just for the narratives and just to see what happens, I'd love to see him with the Warriors. And Steph, of course, he will get a lot of flack for it, but it'll be a sight to see, and him going out with a bang. I think that's definitely one way to do that for sure. So here it comes. Yeah, your last words here. What you say?
LeBron James to the Warriors will give Stephen A. Smith content for almost a year.
Boy. Well, Stephen A. Smith content will he said it on last week, I think. He said if LeBron James comes to the New York Knicks, he might retract every negative thing he said. He might not be, he said, he's not going as far as the GOAT. He still thinks MJ is the GOAT, but anything he has said, he will help LeBron James settle into New York if there's a possibility of that happening. So that'll be really interesting to see what happens in the offseason. Orin, thanks very much for this episode 23 now coming to an end. Thank you very much. And of course, game 7 tonight, we're going to see what happens with the Detroit Pistons and Cleveland Cavaliers, who are ready to face off against the New York Knicks. We're really looking forward to see what happens with Victor Wembanyama, Chet Holmgren, and Shai Gilgeous Alexander in the Oklahoma City Thunder. Last week I wore a Spurs jersey, so this week I wore the Oklahoma one. This is a series that I'm really looking forward to, and we're going to catch up next week and see how it all goes, and we'll of course continue from there. All right, stay safe, my boy, and we will catch up next time on episode 24 as we go along. All right, stay tuned, guys. See you later.
From the hardwood floor to the spotlight glow, breaking down the stats every fan should know. Trace, place, legends in the making. Every headline, no mistaking. Fast breaks, crossovers, highlight reels. What's real strategy, what's hype and feels. East to west, we call it straight. From draft night buzz to finals fade. Baseline to baseline, we cover it all. Big plays, bold takes, the rise and the fall. Baseline to baseline, where passion is prime. Your